For years, we were lost. Without hope, without guidance, without them. Left only with despair and humiliating losses, 3 heroes arrived to save us from the darkness. The shadows retreated, the rain relented, and a decade of peace arrived. But evil never sleeps for long. Now, a new menace rises. This summer, prepare for the ultimate showdown. The stakes are higher, the water's rougher, the fire's hotter. This isn't just a fight for survival, it's a fight for our fantasy teams. The 10th anniversary Megala Show. Don't miss it. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. The Fantasy Footballers back with you. Jason Moore, Mike Wright, Andy Holloway.
It's Friday.
I was
holding it back?
No, I was actually typing to Owl. See if he could throw that Friday drop on my board.
Do we still have that drop?
Of course we do.
Welcome in.
A very extensive library. Nothing falls through the cracks.
Yeah, we are back to 5 shows a week, which is why we're here on this fine Friday morning, August 2nd. Fantasy football is it's here. We're reaching the preseason, and you hold your breath for the injury reports this time of year. You want everything to go well. And look, I don't know how to tell you this, Jay, but I'm gonna win. No. I'm gonna win another championship this year. And
that's awesome. I assume that's some home league you're in. I'm not in.
It's a legal record, and it's not about you so much. It's just you'll be one of 11 other people to not win it.
Interesting.
So you'll have a bunch of people to kind of commiserate with.
Well, that is what happens in every league.
It is.
Most people don't win, and one does.
But
okay. There we go. I knew it was there somewhere.
Al dug it out of the archives. Thank you, Al.
Put it back in the box.
Al's not
wheel it away.
Al's not going to be at the live show, right? We're not.
Oh, he'll be there. The whole crew's coming.
Everybody's going to be there, so that'll be fun. What else do we got going on today? We have a pretty entertaining quick question, I think, talking about fraudulent offenses and making our predictions on the offenses that people are counting on that they might go south. And then it's a mid-round madness episode. So we'll be mentioning a couple names, each of us, a couple names that we think are values in the middle rounds. And if you hit on one, like if you really hit on one of those middle round players, that can make such a difference for your team.
Absolutely.
The Ultimate Draft Kit available right now at ultimatedraftkit.com if you want to go jump in. It is August, so don't be a fool and fall behind when you get ready for your draft. UltimateDraftKit.com for that. You can follow us on X at the FF Ballers, and we are updating our timeline with lots of articles and information and news and breaking news and videos and things like that over on X. I think that about covers it. You guys want to jump into the quick question?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Well, Danny Walsh, good old Danny.
Old Dan Walsh.
Oh, we call him Dan Walsh. He goes by Danny on IG.
Mom calls him Daniel.
Yeah, that's how he was born. Who is your fraudulent offense of the year? So this is it's kind of a scary prediction. It's a scary prediction to make.
Spicy.
Because it happens every year.
Yeah, it does.
There's teams that let you down. I mean, I remember the Cleveland Browns with OBJ and Jarvis Landry and Baker coming off his rookie season and all the hype going into the year and Njoku, and they let people down.
They sure did.
And teams like the Patriots this year can't really let you down. You know, so when you're talking about a fraudulent offense, it's one that has to look good right now, has to have pieces that are important for fantasy that are maybe overdrafted, and it's not going to work out as well as maybe we hope.
Yeah. Hey, look, I can go first because you brought up the Cleveland Browns. That was a team led by Baker Mayfield, and the team that I want to highlight, they are led by Baker Mayfield. It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that there is a true regression coming for this team. They've had some turnover. It feels at this moment like Dave Canales is a magic man, as we have seen him 2 years in a row resurrect the careers for two separate quarterbacks and some offenses. He is now gone from Tampa Bay. It's not that I think that Tampa Bay is going to completely fall on its face. I just think that Baker really overproduced last year. He struggled immensely against man. In fact, he averaged 33 passing yards per game versus man, and now the league has a whole year of tape to kind of study the tendencies of what was going on down there. Where did Baker struggle? I think that will absolutely factor in the inefficiencies of Rachaad White. They kept getting away with those things last year. I think there's too much against Baker, and this is not I'm not drafting Mike Evans or I'm not willing to take a chance on Chris Godwin. I just think that they will. I don't think you're going to get Mike Evans that you saw last year, where it was, what was he, 13 receiving touchdowns, up from 6 the year before. I think that Evans can still be a 8 to 10 range, but where he was the top 5 guy and Baker was this like a streaming darling in certain situations. I think that is going to be harder this year.
Very logical, Mike, unfortunately. Very logical, probably very true. That team is I think they did more for fantasy than they did make their mark as a top-tier offense. And so, you know, Evans was great in part because of how late you had to draft him too. Now you're going to have to pay up and bank on it. Jason, what's the offense you want to throw out there?
Yeah, the offense that, when we're looking at these for me and I'm trying to predict how could it go wrong, it's usually kind of like what Mike just did. It's looking at a quarterback that maybe isn't as great as touted. And so for me, that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm still not convinced that Trevor Lawrence is worth the money he just received. He is a fine NFL quarterback. He's not a bad NFL quarterback, but I don't believe he's a superstar. And losing Calvin Ridley and replacing him with Brian Thomas, a rookie, Gabe Davis, who is in his own right not been,
he's very fit, very, very good at cardio and running routes.
Super good at running routes. This is a team that struggled down the stretch last year. If you remember, they started out, they were on pace for the number 1 seed and get that playoff bye week, and then they completely collapsed down the stretch, lost, what was it, like 6 of their last 7 games. I feel like their offense got a little bit figured out. Their run game became inefficient. And so if things start to go poorly, if they were figured out at the end of last year and it continues into this season, I don't know that, I don't see this offense taking a step forward. So at best it's going to be neutral, and I can see a world where this offense just struggles. Trevor Lawrence is a first read type of thrower. Only Tua had a faster time to throw and a higher first read target percentage rate. This is kind of like a scripted, here's what you're going to do, and if the defense figures it out, obviously it works for Tua pretty well.
Well, Dad, if Tyreek Hill were on my team, I would have a lot of first read targets.
Yeah, where is he? Go to him. So I just see how it could go poorly if some of these wide receivers that they're banking on don't step up. Then I think it could be in store for a disappointed offense.
So you said Jacksonville. Fraud might be too strong a word for my pick for this quick question, but
yours is sizzling.
I think letdown.
Like a fresh plate of fajitas.
I think letdown is the right word for it. It's Buffalo. Thank you, Mike. A very good sound effect. Look, a lot has been made of whether Stephon Diggs has lost it. But the conversation with Buffalo has nothing to do with what stage of Stephon Diggs' career he is in. The conversation with Buffalo is, can you take Jefferson off of Minnesota and have the same production from Cousins? Can you take Amon-Ra away from Goff and have the same production? There's only one quarterback. I mean, can you take Chase away from Burrow and expect the same kind of production on offense?
No.
No, and what made Buffalo prolific was the fact they had an alpha in the offense. You talk about wide receivers with Jacksonville. Right now we're sitting here with Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, and Khalil Shakir. Those are not foundational pieces of a wide receiver room. Those are wide receiver 2-3s that, you know, Patrick Mahomes could figure out how to make sure it works. He's the one we've seen lose Tyreek Hill and still figure it out. But he also, like, we're expecting Dalton Kincaid to take a step up. Whereas Kelsey, when he lost Tyreek, Kelsey was already the GOAT.
Right.
And Buffalo, their identity changed over the back half of the year. Yes, they won some games, but yes, there were some flaws, and Joe Brady offenses get figured out over time. They went from 3rd in turnover rate to 15th under Brady. The more pressure you put on Josh Allen, which is going to be a natural byproduct of taking away an alpha from this roster, there's not always a guaranteed great outcome. And so, you know, weeks 11 through 18 with Brady, they were 31st in pass rate. Teams adjust, and then they get adjusted too, and then you have to adjust again, right? Like, this is what's happened time and time again for New England when they had Brady and for Kansas City with Mahomes. The question will be, can Josh Allen adjust well enough under the pressure when they start locking down James Cook a little bit out of the backfield? Like, there's a big difference between a midseason transition that kind of works out and prolific fantasy numbers. So I think the Buffalo offense as a whole might not have as many players to deliver for you. I've started hesitating a little bit with even how high I have Dalton Kincaid ranked, because the team has come out and once again put their emotional backing behind Dawson Knox, and it just puts a little fear in you. There is not a Dawson Knox competing for Travis Kelce and Sam Laporta and Mark Andrews and George Kittle's targets or opportunities on the field. I have some hesitation with Buffalo. It's why I went out and I put my money where my mouth was. I traded Josh Allen away in a dynasty league where he has been dominant. I could totally pay the price for that. But I
hope you do.
It was the time to cash in and get a player like Kyler in a first-round pick. And I just have question marks around Buffalo. And, you know, you get to the end of this year and, you know, we don't know which one of these wide receivers is going to make the biggest mark. And not knowing it now means that, you know, Josh Allen's going to have to figure it out too.
Yeah, obviously with the change in their offensive philosophy at the end of the year, which is not usually good for fantasy, and the loss of their clear-cut wide receiver 1 for this team, there are definitely yellow flags to overcome. I think most people, and I'm with most people, believe Josh Allen can figure it out and will figure it out. So that's really what it comes down to, is how good is Josh Allen? That's it. And I think he's pretty darn good.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to carve him out a little bit from because we know he can get the production even if the team isn't a top 5 offense. Josh Allen can still be the number 1 quarterback. We know that to be true. But if the offense struggles a little bit, maybe you don't get as much ceiling, maybe you get a down game here or there, and maybe you can't predict who else to start in the offense. Although I know James Cook should have every opportunity to really have a breakout campaign, he's still got to get it done. And their identity from the end of last year, it has to work going into this year and not be adjusted to. So
I am very excited to watch Buffalo. It's like, wow, we heap the praise. Oh, Patrick Mahomes figures it out. And yeah, football-wise,
yes.
Yeah, they figured it out. But fantasy-wise, the second half of the year, they did not figure it out.
Nor was Mahomes good for fantasy in that stretch.
That's what I'm saying. Of like, yeah, the team, the Kansas City Chiefs, but we're not playing NFL football. We're playing fantasy football. So those doubts have started to just kind of creep into the back of my head of like Josh Allen's still my number 1 quarterback for redraft, but there's that, instead of it being a full 100% conviction, of course we're going to go with this. It's if there's really no number 1, if no one makes the jump to be their go-to guy, which we're going to talk Dalton Kincaid here in a second. If no one makes that jump, does Josh Allen figure it out? Where We talked about him a little bit at length, Josh Allen, in this week's Dynasty podcast of if a pretty easy comp for Josh Allen's career is Cam Newton. Like they're both big, strong Superman type players, and this is when Cam Newton disappeared. Now, I don't think Josh Allen's going to disappear the way that Cam Newton has because of injuries. Cam Newton got way more hurt than Josh Allen has been thus far in his career, so maybe that took the toll. But I just saw Josh Allen talking to Kay Adams about running the ball, and it was, hinted at of maybe I need to do that a little bit less. He's still going to run, but it's just if he's thinking about that more and more and no one is taking the leap out there, is he the locked-in number one guy?
It's just a weird math equation to figure out when Josh Allen has had 4 straight years of 4,500, 4,400, 4,200, 4,300 yards passing.
Yes,
and
exactly.
even if you just take a big 1,100-yard basket and throw it to Dalton Kincaid, and then you say, well, where's the other 3,000 yards going? Where's the other 3,300 yards going? And then hilariously, and not by much, he's throwing a ton of touchdowns, but they have gone down 4 straight years. So it's just in the back of my head saying, hey, Khalil Shakir, does he profile as a 1? Is Coleman going to do it as a rookie? Curtis Samuel, we've seen enough Curtis Samuel to know that he will be helpful, probably not fundamental.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We might disagree on this, but here in a little while we're going to talk about Dalton Kincaid, who I think will emerge as the clear number 1 receiver for this
They
team.
might need him for all 4,300 yards, so that's a good point.
News and notes from around the league, presented by USAA Insurance.
All right, we're jumping into the news, and we do have the Deucers here over there in Deucer's Alley, putting the deuce in Deucer's Alley over there,
yeah.
Falcon. But we got everybody in the building today.
Falcon dump.
Did we enjoy the Hall of Fame game, everybody?
Oh,
Can I get some nods over there?
What?
Some big.
That's a big yawn from Josh.
Oh, Josh yawned.
Josh
yeah.
the actor. What is happening back there?
That's pretty good. Pretty good. No, we had.
Your SAG card. What's going on?
We didn't get a football time yesterday for good reason.
We couldn't.
You're reserving it.
Yeah.
But we are underway in the preseason, and we got some preseason news yesterday. Justin Herbert week to week with a plantar fascia injury.
Uh-oh.
I've been about year to year on that same injury. Doctors have recommended 2 weeks in a boot, followed by a graduated return to playing, with the expectation he'll be ready for the start of the season.
Does he get like a diploma when it comes time to play, or you like that?
Boston.
Yeah.
I told that joke in my head.
I don't know if I
He
even
graduated, returned. Yeah, no,
I'm sorry.
even I held that one back. Jason, so swoosh.
Yeah.
The Lad McConkey hype
proud of
train
that.
has been building steam,
Yeah.
picking up steam, but Herbert missed time last year. Here's Herbert with another injury. Is this just kind of like a pause and wait and see and hope and pray? And
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not good news. It lowers, it raises the risk rating of Justin Herbert and Lad McConkey and the whole offense. That being said, the expectation is he should be ready for the regular season. So it's better now than if it was 3 weeks from now. Then it would be a real problem. When I'm looking at my drafts, like we're going to talk about Lad here in a little bit, I'm still in on Lad until if we hear that there's a setback or something happening that will cause actual on-the-field problems. I will, however, adjust Justin Herbert a little bit. He's
to account for risk?
Yeah, he's in a range right now late in drafts where sometimes I've snagged him in hopes that he has a monstrous season. But if he's dealing with, a nagging plantar fascia injury, I'm worried about his
Fakasha.
Ooh, delicious.
That sounds so good.
One of the reasons we have
olive oil on that.
Yeah.
Is that the remedy?
Yeah, I think you just rub some olive oil in it. You'll be fine, Justin. Get back out
I have
there.
not tried that. But we have risk ratings in the UDK for a reason, and I've adjusted mine a little bit just because, Herbert, like if I told you Herbert was going to miss 2 games, he's off the board. Like
Right,
there's other quarterbacks to make a decision on.
And my hope for Herbert, look, he's an awesome player, but my hope with this Greg Roman Harbaugh offense is that they are going to unleash his wheels a little bit more. He is mobile.
Oh.
He is very
Put
able
that focaccia to use.
put that focaccia on the field, show you how delicious it is. But if that hampers the running game for him, the mobility,
That's a good point.
It makes me a little sad.
Josh Jacobs didn't practice. He's dealt with a couple of off-season soft tissue issues. Fat Thor with the groin injury now, and missed the first week of OTAs with a hamstring injury.
Is the website updated?
Groinindex.com.
I'm checking it right
One
now.
of the more illustrious websites.
The first.
Okay.
The first addition to groinindex.com.
In
Very
2024.
Yeah.
My groin.
There'll be more.
That is the quote from Josh Jacobs.
I do have a
He's
question.
an ARG.
I got a question
My
for
groin.
our resident Packer fan over there, because not only did Josh Jacobs miss practice, but they announced some white alternative helmets for the Packers. Did you see those?
Those are looking
No,
good.
I'm going to go look right now.
I
You
sent
like
them to you, Al.
I think they
because-
look good.
So I wanted to get your official out of 10 rating for that alternate uniform. So have you found them?
Not yet.
Okay. Well,
Keep looking.
guess I should have tagged you in those. But Mike, you saw them?
I did. They're fire.
I thought they looked.
Did
You
you
didn't like them?
I did like them.
I don't
Oh,
like
yeah.
the helmet.
Those are clean.
I feel like it looks.
The helmet was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm
You
saying. I
didn't-
don't
so
like
when
it.
they announced the helmets, you're like,
It
it's
makes
the helmets
their-
I don't like.
It makes their logo look like they're Georgia, the college. Like that's all I see.
Okay.
I'm going to go 6.5 or 7.
Out of 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard when you change an iconic uniform. Like the Packers are probably the number one most iconic uniform. Packers, Cowboys, Bears. What other teams am I forgetting? Steelers. There's a few that, like, when you change them a little bit, like, for instance, if you make the Steelers into, like, a bumblebee or something, it's a little disruptive. I know you love the bumblebee.
I
Mike.
do look.
I do too.
And I that was also a throwback.
Yeah, I know. So it's an OG. Yeah. All right. Joe Mixon also recovering from a minor quadricep injury. Deonta Foreman. We got news that he was released from the hospital after he
that's
went
good.
to the hospital with a neck injury. That would be Browns running back, part of the committee mix over there in Cleveland. I don't think I have any other news. I think that's all I got. So catching you up.
If Deonta Foreman wasn't there, if this, let's say this was long term or whatever, does that change your view on Ford? Because I know we've had some debate. Mike and I, think Jerome Ford will be very involved to start the year. A good late round value pick.
It doesn't change. Like, I think I agree with you on the pick. I think the pick is fine with Jerome Ford. I think it doesn't change my view of his ceiling. Like, Jerome Ford had every opportunity, every game most of last year, and he's okay. That's my view.
Sure.
I mean, it's not like when Kareem Hunt wasn't there before they brought him back that Jerome Ford was like a top 5, top 10 back or something. I just think he's got a cap. That's all.
Yeah, he does. He's not an elite superstar athlete.
By the way, you see Tariq Cohen? Shout out to that's not in the news.
The dinosaur
but
hunter.
The dinosaur hunter has retired,
Yeah.
and he tried to come back. He's only 29, but the major.
But he's
injury.
209, and that was the problem. That's
Oh,
literally
he did. He actually-
literally the problem. He says he was up at like 207, 208, 209. We're talking LBs. He was playing at 188 when he was this,
Quote, I let myself get fat.
Yeah, so
That's a quote.
It happens.
Been there.
It happens to the best of us, bro.
That was today's news and notes presented by USAA Insurance. Learn more at usaa.com/insurance. We'll take a break, come back with some mid-round madness.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
All right. Value picks in the middle rounds. I've got 2 names I'm going to throw out. I want to get your guys' feedback. I want you to press me on these guys, and we'll do some ADP this or that with these names because they're, right now, the word out of Dallas has got me. I was already pretty firmly on the Ezekiel Elliott side of the backfield rotation. And then now with talk of Royce Freeman being the number 2 and Rico Dowdle battling it out with Malik Davis and, all the other names seem firmly behind him. So Zeke is the first name. Zeke is a 10th round draft pick right now. and this is a top 5 offense. So Zeke is one name. The other one is an 8th-round pick. Also had some camp buzz to kind of be the exclamation point on the end of last season when he was a league winner for my team and many others, and that would be the tight end 10 off the board right now in the 8th round, David Njoku of the Cleveland Browns. Those two names, I think, are players that I will be targeting. We've got a league of record team, or I do, where it traded a lot of early picks away. So I'm looking for diamonds in the rough, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are situations like that out there where you're really needing to not take a big chance but get some more guaranteed production. I think both of these guys are values at their ADP.
I'll jump in here of I'm in on the Zeke pick as well. It's
so
super nasty.
This is a stinky, stinky pick.
But this
It
is
doesn't feel good.
when we're looking at running backs in the double digits, if you can attach that to a team that projects to be a really good offense, that should be an edge that you're looking for, and the Cowboys would project to be at least a top 10 offense, and they're to me they're a top 10 offense if things go wrong. So I'm in on Zeke. The situation behind him it's so murky. Like we went literally one day, the report was Royce Freeman, who recently he's brand new to the team just a couple months ago. Royce Freeman sounds like he could be positioned to be the backup, the number 2 on this team, while Dowdle and Davis battle it out for the next. And then the very next day, you had a Cowboys beat reporter come out and say, it's not a question. Rico Dowdle, once the pads went on, Rico Dowdle is the best running back on the team right now. He also followed up with, I don't think that they turned him into the RB1. He's just giving his observation of the guys
The talent,
playing, of the talent.
26-year-old.
Yeah, what I'm looking at right now, Dowdle's the best. So it is a mess. Hopefully we get the backup situation figured out. But in the meantime, Zeke will be the number 1 guy. He is nothing remotely close to the elite fantasy football Zeke that we all loved and drafted years over years. However, with opportunity in front of him, he's shown he can still take that. Like last year from weeks 13 on, he was getting 21 opportunities a game. He was the RB9 in that stretch because volume is the king at the running back position, and that was the ability was availability of I can handle this. And I think that Zeke can still handle it. It's just how well will he actually produce with that at a 10th round draft price. To me, it doesn't matter. Like he can easily pop up into being a top 24 running back.
Yeah, I mean, if it is kind of gross, but he shouldn't be as low as he is in ADP. Not with the offense he's attached to and the opportunities he's going to get at the end of the year. That when they got down into the red zone, the Cowboys threw the ball. They threw it and threw it and threw it when they got down near the end zone, and they did that at the end of the year because they failed at the beginning of the year. Tony Pollard was given so many opportunities. Well, if Zeke can still do that one thing and score those touchdowns down near that's what they're going to start the season trying to do. They're going to try to run it in. That's the better thing to do when you get into the red zone to the 5 zone. You know, that's where offenses usually work a little bit better. This offensive line should be better this year than last year. And if you look at the depth chart around him, Rico Dowdle might be a better running back than him, but he's not going to usurp the veteran best friend, the quintessential Cowboy, because he's not. It's not like he's twice as good as Zeke, and there's just no way to keep Rico Dowdle off the field. He'll spell him. And if you look at who he's going near in ADP, the 4 running backs, there's a lot in common. You got these are the 4 back-to-back-to-back: Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott, and Gus Edwards. And all of them are they're older, they have big problems, but it's like, okay, what about the offenses? The Commanders' offense isn't going to be good.
Right.
We don't expect. Nick Chubb is coming off a devastating knee injury and won't be ready to go. Zeke is literally on a top 5 offense.
Yeah, and they were number 1 in red zone plays per game last year. So you talk about opportunity. I think the Gus Edwards v. Zeke question is a really good one.
Sure.
Both of them are past their prime as running backs go. Both of them are grinders. Both of them pose or position themselves as huge red zone threats. Like, I think that'll be a really tough decision for people to make, especially if things sift out depth charts wise for both teams. Like in practice, Gus and Dobbins, their first one together, they split first team reps. Like
it's pretty easy for me because Gus does not usually catch passes, and
Yep.
Ezekiel Elliott will.
So you're very Zeke on that.
I'm easily Zeke.
So
on that.
Zeke.
I'm not bullish about Zeke. I do think that there is a limit to his ceiling. He won't be on a lot of my rosters, but if I'm, this is another one of those 0 RB type of guys. If you're going 7-8 rounds without getting a running back, and then all of a sudden in the 10th round you can get a starting fine running back, like that's a strong total fantasy points at the end of a week build that you can do. If I've got a bunch of running backs ahead of them, I would rather, I'd rather be taking a Jonathan Brooks type that could surprise and have some unknown ceiling because he's really young, talented, explosive player.
I think Gus Edwards versus Zeke comes down to, do you think that Gus Edwards will have so many more touchdowns than Ezekiel Elliott, which that's not impossible. That there's going to be so much volume for the Chargers, and when they get in close, they're going to try and run it in. Can his touchdowns outpace the production of Zeke catching the ball? That's the question you have to ask yourself when debating the two.
And I do want to mention for Njoku, I just think that the opportunity for him to continue the breakout is there. I want to put that out there.
It should.
Because not only did he have one of the most prolific endings of the season where, that matters. Like, it matters to show what you can put on film, but also, like, a lot has been made of, like, his splits are worse with Deshaun Watson. Now, Watson wasn't there during that stretch. That's true. But, like, his Watson splits were, like, you're still over 600 yards. You're still at 5 touchdowns. And without him, you were a lot better. But, like, if that's your floor, is that you're a plus 600-yard, 5-touchdown player with the upside that we saw at the end of the year to take over the league, I just think tight end 10 is kind of floor for Njoku. Where are you guys with him when you look at, Bowers going ahead of him or the Goddards in that range?
Right.
Like, I don't feel like Njoku is getting vaulted to this place where it's just everybody is riding 4 weeks of last year.
Well, there's a player who's going right around David Njoku that I'm going to talk about later that I would take over him. The hardest part for me with David Njoku is he is a player where it should work. Like, this isn't – I don't have the conviction of a full season of evidence, or at least just even some glimpses of when he was playing with Watson of, oh, yeah, Deshaun Watson, a.k.a. Voldemort, will utilize David Njoku like Joe Flacco did at the end of the season. And so because of his age, when the breakout is coming of, like, he's entering year 8, and that was really the first time where you've seen David Njoku dominant for a stretch of time. You've seen plays and games and things like that because the dude he checks so many boxes of what you want for a breakout tight end, but because he is in this position of it should work, and I have one more tight end that I'm a little more confident in, I'm probably passing on Njoku.
His target pace was 156 targets.
Not
the final 4 weeks, the final 11 weeks. His pace was 156 targets. So you talk about intentionality or listening to the head coach say, I'm going to get him the football.
Well, the thing about that quote with the I'm going to get him the football, which is great to hear from, you want manufactured touches for tight ends. You want a designed game plan where you're saying we are trying to get the ball in the hands. But as he did talk, he talked about how, the quarterbacks have different tendency as the play goes on. You've just got to, go where you go. And that is a big difference between what we saw with Flacco versus what we saw with Deshaun Watson. And you can give that longer stretch, but the truth is when Deshaun Watson left, he from week 11 is when he was injured and gone. So 11 through 17, which is 7 games. I mean, he was on pace for 167 targets. That's elite wide receiver. He was on pace for 104 receptions. I mean, this was unbelievable usage from Flacco, just constantly, if there's pressure, boom, outlet.
Well, that was probably 2 other guys, too, in that stretch.
Sure.
But Flacco was only a part of it.
But and you also, not taking away what Njoku did, but there was also you could look at that time of the schedule, of seeing which teams were struggling against the tight end position, it was something like, I mean, Andy, you identified, look at David Njoku's schedule.
Yes. No, you're right.
This should happen.
Tight ends, it's a place you can do that with.
Because that was a part of it as well. I mean, it should work. Like,
it's really hard for me because
work.
I know the name you're going to bring. Is it part of today's show?
Yes.
All right, so we'll pivot.
It's funny. Today's almost
we have 3 tight ends.
It's a tight end show because we're talking about the who's the value in the middle rounds, and you kind of have to pick your tight end poison in the middle rounds often.
Yeah, and ours are later than yours, Jason. But the Jake Ferguson's the name.
Yes.
We can go on to Mike's 2 picks, but that is such a dichotomy of ability. Like Ferguson was red zone touchdown efficiency.
Yeah.
Njoku is athleticism targets. Like even with Watson, he's at 100 target pace. Like you're talking about 2 totally different types of tight ends going in the exact same spot.
Yes.
So talk about your 2 names.
So I would 100% agree with that. Of that, if it works for David Njoku, like if Watson was on the sideline and went, oh, I didn't realize that guy could do that, I'm going to feature him. Njoku is someone who can make a gigantic leap and like legit finish as a top 4 tight end. I don't know that Jake Ferguson can make that type of a jump, but he was Dak Prescott's second favorite target last year, 102 targets. It was the second most on the team.
That's a good number.
He finished as the tight end number 8, over 760 yards, and it comes down to just how they utilize him up the seam. Like he gets moved around a lot. He gets used in the slot a good amount. And then there's just a fact of where Njoku's going into season 8. This is season 3 for Ferguson, and essentially like it's his second year as a starter. His first year it was Dalton Schultz, and Ferguson was barely on the field. So for game action, I mean, that was the first time that Ferguson's ever been the focal point, almost similar to a rookie. And looking at can he get better over that time, I guess you do have technically you have Luke Schoonmaker, who was a second-round pick tight end who was just hurt all of last year. Maybe he somehow gets worked in more. But Jake Ferguson, like he led all tight ends in red zone targets. Like he is an absolute go-to player.
Number 3 in the NFL of all receivers in red zone targets.
Yeah, so highly utilized where exactly in the green area or the red zone, and then turns into the green zone. And he actually underperformed in terms of how many touchdowns he should have scored. He should have scored over 7. Meanwhile, all 5 of his touchdowns came into the red zone. Where are you guys with Jake Ferguson before I bring up my other name?
He is one of the later guys. I'm fine pulling the trigger on either one of those players.
Pick one, Njoku or Ferguson.
They're going in the same spot.
Same
so who
spot.
are you?
805.
805. I think I would take Njoku over Ferguson simply because of the extreme athleticism and the hope that he does become a hyper targeted number 2 in the offense. I like both.
Over Bowers?
Definitely.
Bowers is going ahead of him.
Yeah, in some leagues.
It's not.
I mean, you know me. I don't do the rookie tight end. I just don't do it. And obviously, I'll take an L on Sam Laporta last year.
Hopped in
and then I will take no other L's in my life so far. So I'm 99-1. But
you've been doing this a long time.
I'm fine with either of those guys. I think they both have avenues, and I had Ferguson a lot last year. I watched he is a very, very vital piece of how they work in the red zone. He should have had so many more touchdowns, and so maybe that's a talent issue, and he's just not good enough to come down with those balls. But also he's going into 3rd year, getting better, more acclimated, and those things just bounce the wrong way some years and bounce the right way other years. He will have opportunities to score touchdowns. It's ironic because if Zeke does really, really well, if Zeke is a good value, Ferguson won't be, because both of those guys to me are coming on the backs of touchdowns.
It's pretty interesting to see them tied together like that.
Right. So it's like, do you think their running game is going to work in the red zone, or do you think they're going to have to rely on the passing game in the red zone again?
The other name I want to talk about, and he keeps getting talked about on this show for good reason, and yet his ADP still holds pretty strong in the 6th round at the RB19. It is James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals.
Where's he at?
Our 602 on Sleeper, running back 19. Yes, James Conner has a lot of red flags that we like to avoid of how old he is. He's going into year 8. Like, these are being 29 and going into year 8. That's the age cliff, that's season cliff, but it hasn't mattered yet for James Conner.
I think we were scared when he was 27 going into year
Right.
6.
We've been scared every year of James Conner's career. And, I want to start the conversation of talking about what is going on with the backups for the Arizona Cardinals. Trey Benson, exciting rookie. He was my number 1 rookie running back. Like, I liked him more than Brooks. And they took him in the 3rd round. And yet we still haven't heard, like, it's still a jumble. They have Michael Carter there. They have Trey Benson there. Amari DeMarcado, the fab dumpster that is DeMarcado.
Oh my gosh.
The fab dumpster.
He took all my money last year.
He burned all your fab
He
last
took all
year.
of my fab, and I needed him, and he did nothing.
Nom 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 nom.
Yeah, he just threw it in the garbage.
Oh my gosh.
But like, his name is still in the mix. Everything about the backup running back situation is it's all up in the air, which it points further to James Conner for this year is solidified. He is the guy. This was his first season of over 1,000 rushing yards, which is pretty wild because he keeps getting close. And over the final 5 games of the season, he was averaging over 22 fantasy points, nearly 24 opportunities, 100 rushing yards, and 1.5 touchdowns in that stretch. This is an absolute dominant player over that time. The last 2 years, really, we've seen James Conner. Add on top of that, the Cardinals' offense is going to be one of those that takes one of the biggest steps that we've seen from the previous year of a full season of healthy Kyler, an addition of a true number 1 alpha in Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, James Conner, to me, where he's going in round 6 is it's a free top 20 running back to me.
He is
with room to be even higher.
Those 5-game stretch, he would have had 353 attempts. They just rode him.
He's gonna miss a couple games. I understand that.
He was great when Kyler came back. Was awesome last year. This team relies on him. He is a leader of the team. When we first were putting together our mid-round madness and who we like in those middle rounds, he really stood out. I just didn't want to pick him as a homer, your Cardinal, whatever. He is a good pick. He's going to score. He's going to be involved, and he is an exceptional running back for his age right now.
So Conner or David Montgomery?
I would rather have Conner. I think we've talked about this in the past. If I'm relying on this player as a starter, and probably in the 6th round it's going to be an important, like at least a flex, then I would rather have Conner. If for some reason I'm loaded at running back, then I still love the upside of an injured Gibbs down the line that would vault David Montgomery to a league winner.
Conner or Jones, Aaron Jones in the middle rounds?
That's James Conner by a lot for me.
That's Conner for me as well.
Swift?
Oh, really?
DeAndre Swift?
It's Conner. So yeah, I mean where he's going seems like a good value. So my 2 mid-round madness guys are Dalton Kincaid and Lad McConkey. So this is a little bit of a tight end show because that's where you've got to mine the earth and find the right tight ends to get. I find myself ending a lot of mock drafts with Dalton Kincaid. I've said it many times through the offseason. I want one of those top 5 guys. And I don't want to be the one to pull the trigger first. I don't want to spend the most on Sam Laporta. I'm fine with where Kelsey's going. I love where McBride is going. But, when you're in those rounds, you don't always get to dictate who falls to you. But it seems like Dalton Kincaid continues to fall. Dawson Knox, you brought him up earlier. He's got, he's getting pub. He's getting some juice. The GM loves him. The GM is going to love everyone on the roster because they drafted him. You don't see the GMs talking too much smack against players that they drafted. Usually it's the coach. But the wide receiver depth chart that besmirched Buffalo earlier this episode is the reason why Dalton Kincaid was an awesome prospect. Like, I know I was out on him last year because he was a rookie, but he had an awesome for a rookie tight end season, like one of the top 10 best. It wasn't great for fantasy because it almost never is, but what he showed on the field was he's got it. He is what they drafted him to be, which is a sensational pass-catching tight end, and now they need him, and he's tied to Josh Allen, not as like most of these guys are the number 2 target, right? Like Trey McBride, it's great to be the number 2 target. You hope David Njoku, is the number 2 target ahead of Jerry Jeudy, because that would be really, really good. There's only a handful of guys that are in the number 1. The Kelsey, even Laporta's not the number 1. There's Kelsey, there's Andrews, and there's Dalton Kincaid, who has a legitimate shot of being the primary target. So in the 5th round, as the final tight end of the guys who I could see take that leap forward to becoming a league winner status, I like him there.
Yeah, I think Kincaid is just get a little bit of the hesitation with Dawson Knox, because this was a player that, like, if Kincaid had not been surprise drafted by the Bills, Knox would have been receiving the same levels of hype and excitement as the Njoku and Ferguson, because he broke the franchise record for touchdowns in 2021. They gave him a big bag of money. He had 40, 50 plus receptions in those games. I'm just worried about the occasional disappointment, but Kincaid he's got the ceiling to be the best tight end in football, if that's the way that the team chooses to funnel the football, through him. So I'm very excited at it. It is your choice there is to take the last of the 5. His ADP is the last of the 5 great ones.
That's right. And so that's why I end up with him often.
That makes
because
sense. When
I'm in the 4th, 3rd, 2nd rounds, there are super, super duper valuable wide receivers and running backs that I usually can't get Trey McBride, who I want. I don't think he's a bad value where he's going, but it's like, I just want this running back. I want this wide receiver just so much more. Sure. And in the 5th, I go, well, I don't want to go week to week streaming the tight end position this year, and I got a chance.
He's 4 picks behind where Andrews is going. How big is that gap to you?
Between Andrews and Kincaid?
To me,
that's massive.
To me, if
there's only 4 picks in ADP.
Yeah, so if they were at the exact same spot, if they were, I'm on the clock, I'm definitely taking Andrews. And Andrews is more proven. We know he's the number 1. We know he can do it. He's a touchdown machine. Obviously injury risk, but I would take him. The mid-round madness I pretty much was looking in the 5th round. Andrews is in the 4th. They're close together, and I think they're both good values. But yeah, I do end up like we've seen it. We could go back to the mock drafts. It's just over and over and over and over. When I am on the clock, wherever I am, it's him left. I've never had the chance to go, oh, should I do Andrews or Kincaid here when I get to that round?
What are you hoping for? Like, oh yeah, I'd like 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns. No, but like, what are you realistically hoping that Dalton Kincaid's improvement is of like last year? What was he? 589 yards.
What he
was at?
No, he had to be higher than that.
673.
673. Sorry.
My hope is that he is involved around the end zone. That is my hope. That's what's going to move the needle. He will have a ton of targets, a ton of receptions, and plenty of yards in this offense to be a top tight end. I hope he gets 100 receptions. I've got him for 90 receptions. That's how I've got him statted.
We both have him that high. The splits are interesting though. Like first he was a rookie, first 6 weeks with Dawson Knox, just under 4 targets a game. Then he went, week 7 through 10 without Knox, goes up to 8 targets a game. Joe Brady took over, right? So we want to project that forward to James Cook, but the targets did go down. The production went down, only 6 fantasy points per game with Brady. So, you expect a big step forward, but that's where that slight, I think it's a big 4.
The Dawson Knox splits are very, very concerning and legitimate. The tough thing with that is that it was the first 6 weeks of Dalton Kincaid's career.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't care about those weeks. I care about the last ones.
You care about the Joe Brady weeks, week 11 through 18.
Correct.
That's fair.
Those are the ones I care about because Diggs wasn't really part of the offense, and James Cook was majorly part of the offense, and it's the current coordinator, and there was no Dawson Knox. So
yeah, you talked about it earlier, but they were 31st or something in pass rate.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's going to happen, but you can't always do that. They lost some pieces on defense. They went down the stretch last year and just won a bunch of games.
All right, I want your second name, but not yet. After this.
So I mentioned
you did mention him briefly. Yeah.
I did mention him briefly. Lad McConkey.
I still won it.
Oh, yes. I love Lad McConkey. He is when you look at the rookie wide receivers are usually over the last 5, 6, 7 years in the new higher flying NFL, more pass happy NFL, rookie wide receivers are usually a good bet. Now maybe it takes a little bit of time to come on.
Yeah, second half.
So ADP wise, people have totally caught on to this, right? I mean, Marvin Harrison is a 1-2 turn pick. Malik Neighbors is the highest any rookie wide receiver has ever been picked by ADP, other than Marvin Harrison, who's already ahead of him. Lad McConkey isn't getting that treatment. He was a second-round pick. Keep in mind, this is a team that traded up to get him. They traded up a couple spots. This was the very, very beginning of day 2. So they went after
they took
round.
him ahead of Coleman, right? Like Coleman was on the board for them.
Do not believe
Kyle,
so. I think,
am I remembering that?
I think Coleman was the first pick by.
Oh,
Coleman
so
went
I
ahead
had
of-
it backwards. That the Bills chose Coleman over McConkey.
Correct. So, but you go after day 1, and you see this all the time, right? Like the first day of the NFL draft is over, all the teams go and they say, "Who are our targets? Who are we trying to get at the very top of that draft?" They have time to think about it, and they came into the next day saying, "We have to get him." They traded up. They got Lad McConkey, and all the reports from training camp. You look at a lot of these guys as like, is Coleman running with the ones? Sometimes not. We're not sure if he's going to be a part of this offense to start his career or not. They're going to work him in there. What role is he playing? He's got to work on the playbook. You've got Brian Thomas. Is Brian Thomas going to be a starter week 1? Another first round rookie wide receiver? I don't know. Maybe it's Gabe Davis. They paid him a lot of money. They bring him in. Lad McConkey, from day 1, from the word go, he's on the field. He is absolutely, like, every reporter has been saying he's the number 1 target almost every practice. They're saying they're not just using him in the slot. They're using him as the Z receiver. They're moving him around. When you match that with the need, I mean, Quentin Johnston isn't even right now.
Brother.
He might not even be running with the ones.
Maybe we're not running with the 2s.
Right.
It's all bad.
They need him bad.
Online.
And the film, and I know he didn't have college production. If you're just now coming around, the knock on Lad McConkey is that this dude, he shouldn't have been a second-round pick. He had no production in college, and it is legitimately very rare for people to be unproductive in college and then dominate with production in the NFL. Like, that's just not common. It happens sometimes, but it's an outlier. But the film of Lad McConkey was outstanding. I remember when we first started scouting, we hadn't started the process yet. I didn't know the names of a lot of these rookies because, I'm not a huge college guy. As soon as the, Super Bowl hits,
just college in general.
Learning.
Get out of it.
You like that cafeteria, though, eh?
It's quite the joke.
Cafeteria
It's
food's
quite
pretty
the
good.
joke to make to the only guy who has a degree in here, right?
Oh, yeah, that is true. Yeah, you losers.
I have a degree.
You have a
Mike's
college
the only
degree?
one.
I have a college degree.
Do
you have a college degree?
Do you have a college degree?
I thought
Yeah, I do.
I thought you dipped early.
I
dipped early and then I went back and got it.
This uneducated swine is our host?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
College dropout?
I just jokes about being dumb, guys.
Yeah.
Wait, you have a degree?
Yes, I do.
This isn't a bit?
No, this is not a bit. I do have a degree, yes.
I now regret bringing all that up.
Yeah, get bodied.
Sorry, go on. You said
He
when
threw
we were
the
first...
pie and it boomeranged
I
right
did.
back into his own face.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where when we first got to the scouting process, Andy just said he just started talking up this, Lad McConkey, just watch out. He's going to be a star. He's going to be sensational. And in the early days, we weren't even talking rookies yet. No one, even the hardest core listener, no one really knew how much Andy loved Lad McConkey because we weren't talking about rookies yet. He just said that was from watching. That wasn't from scouting and watching film. That was from watching the games. That was like you were watching college football or whatever.
And the Senior Bowl.
And you're just like, that dude is awesome. And I feel like you've almost forgotten that. Your own opinions of him early on.
Forgotten your love.
You have forgotten your love. But my point is this. He is a talented rookie wide receiver who's on the field from snap one and will probably be a 75% snap player for a great quarterback in Justin Herbert. The opportunity is there, and I want to take shots on something like that.
So you're going to plantar your flag on him?
Oh, yeah, look, I had this name in here before the Justin Herbert news. I'm not going to pivot too drastically on this yet, but I don't love that.
Kyle sitting here saying, return to your first love, Andrew. I never fell out of love with Lad McConkey. I wanted to see how, I believe I said this, I want to see how the offseason progressed with Quentin Johnson and Palmer and Chark and,
perfectly for Lad McConkey.
It has. I am returning. I am returning to where I once was. I am with you, Jason. I believe he is, he's just set up to be foundational for the offense. And by the way, Josh Palmer also getting some very positive, like I think Greg Roman was talking all about how good Josh Palmer has been.
You want to know why? Do you want to know why? Because Josh Palmer is an exceptional wide receiver 2. He is not a wide receiver 1. And now they got a wide receiver 1.
I hate to say it because I love McConkey, but I still don't believe that.
Yeah. You don't believe that he's a 1.
No.
You believe he's a Hunter Renfrow slot wide receiver type.
Yeah, you could throw all the little middle names out there. You can be the Golden Tates, or you could be
right.
like we just brought up, or Landry, or whatever. Like those names are what I think he'll really be in this league. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll.
Sure. No, just
because he'll have to, because no one else there can do anything.
Absolutely. Just to remind myself, so Golden Tate was the comp for the fire Jaden Reed guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and this guy could be like a Golden Tate, Lad McConkey.
Yeah, I mean,
see what I'm doing there.
I mean, I
see what I did there.
That's a college degree right over there.
It's up here.
You
man.
just got psyched.
Yeah.
Like
enjoy your education.
The fact that we were already getting reports of McConkey is seeing every position in the wide receiver room. That is humongous to me. To hit a ceiling, you have to play in 3 wide and you have to play in 2 wide.
The fact that he's there, really good.
Yes,
he should be really, really good. And
it's just touchdowns, which I think is what that's what you're saying with all those Golden Tape types, those wide receiver 2 fantasy wide receiver 2s.
Even Keenan. I mean, Keenan's a Hall of Fame level wide receiver, right? So
yes.
Would we say that Keenan Allen is better than Lad McConkey?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Keenan Allen in that kind of a role has lived most of his career peaking around 8 or 9, more of a 12 to 14 finisher. So
that's pretty good.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It definitely is. But what cost him was, not necessarily being a guy that could get double-digit touchdowns or something. But
right. Keenan is a great reason for, like, Lad is very Keenan-like. He's just a great, crisp route runner that can,
great hands.
He's going to be in the right spot every time.
Defensive reader.
Exactly. And so
college degree. Oh, wait.
That is what Keenan was, and Keenan last year was the wide receiver 8 in 13 games. He was like the wide receiver 3 all year until he got injured with Justin Herbert. Obviously, different system. They're going to run the ball more. Rookie, not as good as Keenan Allen, but I do love the similarities for the quarterback.
We have 5 shows next week and throughout the entire NFL season. So it is here 5 days a week. Monday, a mock draft. We'll get into wide receiver rankings early in the week as well. So please join us. Please click that follow button. Also, final reminder, our friends at Sleeper, they're presenting the 2024 10th anniversary Megala show in Los Angeles. Come hang out with us on August 24th. BallersLive.com for tickets. Don't miss it because Jace is going to be shooting a lot of stuff into the crowd, and you're going to be very happy.
They're jersey related. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.